Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar by Advanced Instruments. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our session. My name is Marta Raka, and I will be your host today. Before starting the webinar, we wanted to cover a few housekeeping points. Please ensure that you choose computer audio within the control panel, especially when dialing in from your phone. Alternatively, you can use the GoToWebinar app. Similarly, if using a headset or headphones, please ensure that the output matches here within the control panel. Throughout the webinar, you will have the ability to ask questions. You can do so by popping a message in the chat box, also located within the control panel. Finally, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties or audio problems during the webinar, please send us a message through the chat box and we will address it. The topic of today's webinar is how to maximize cloning efficiency, and we will discuss how combining automation with the right cell supplements will give you the best results. The speakers that you will hear from today will be myself, and I am the product manager for VIPS Pro portfolio, and I'm located in the UK. You'll also hear from my colleague Emma Morris, who is the product manager for reagents. Emma is also located in the UK. Here is the agenda for today's session. I will start off by introducing you to Advanced Instruments as a company. We will then move on to discuss the main challenges in a typical CHO workflow and move on to VIPS demonstration led by Emma. Subsequently, we will share some lovely data sets derived using InstiGRO CHO reagents as well as VIPS Pro, and we will conclude the session with the Q&A at the very end. At Advanced Instruments, we offer unique instruments, consumables, and services that are catered for biopharmaceutical industry. Today's webinar will be focused on two solutions from our cell line development portfolio called Solentum. Those two solutions are VIPS Pro, designed for single-cell seeding and whole imaging, as well as the InstiGRO reagents. We also offer solutions for osmolality testing, bacterial cultivation, and liquid volume calibration. Now that we covered the introduction, let's dive deeper into the topic, and I will pass over to my colleague Emma, who will discuss the main challenges in the CLD CHO workflow. Thank you.
Hello, thanks for the introduction, Marta. I'm sure many of you in the audience today are familiar with the ever-increasing pressure to enhance efficiency of protein therapeutic production. Here we will explore the unique offering of the VIPS Pro system and the InstiGRO cell culture supplements to examine how the combined application of the products can overcome cloning inefficiencies and address regulatory requirements to accelerate stable cell line development with CHO cell lines. Before we dive into the details, let's first reflect on what success looks like. Following transfection and selection of our CHO cell line, our objective is simple: generate a panel of monoclonal colonies which can be screened for our top producing clone. Unfortunately, this is not quite as straightforward as it would first seem. To start, we need to navigate the logistics of isolating single cells within a microplate. Anyone with experience in limiting dilution will tell you that this is not an easy task. Next, we need to capture high-resolution whole images so that we have proof of clonality to accompany our IND application. Finally, we need to ensure that we provide the single cells with the metabolites and nutrients they need to develop into healthy clonal colonies. Like all mammalian cells, CHO cells rely on signaling molecules from each other to avoid apoptotic pathways and resume growth and division. Encouraging single cells to develop into healthy clonal colonies can be quite the challenge and is the root cause of many cell line development bottlenecks. Here we have a 96-well plate imaged on day 9, which was single-cell seeded using the VIPS Pro instrument with cell culture medium, which was supplemented with InstiGRO Cho Plus. As you can see, we have 41 clonal colonies which are all nearing 30% confluence and will soon be ready for expansion. We also have image-based assurance of clonality for all clones captured by the VIPS Pro on the day of single-cell seeding. By contrast, here is a limiting dilution plate which was seeded without the presence of InstiGRO Cho Plus. As you can see, we only have 2 very small clonal colonies. For the sake of comparison, these plates have been whole-well imaged by VIPS Pro. Of course, should the VIPS Pro not have been available, the scientists conducting this project would have had to perform a second round of limiting dilution to conform with the FDA's requirements. Let's take a minute to consider how the difference between plates 1 and 2 translate in terms of project timelines and costs. Imagine we require 50 monoclonal colonies with confluence greater than 40% on day 14 for screening. Based on the results seen in plate 1, which was single-cell seeded with VIPS Pro and InstiGRO Cho Plus, we would need a total of 2 plates to confidently achieve 50 monoclonal colonies. This could be completed within 2 weeks thanks to the VIPS Pro's image-based assurance of clonality. There would be no requirement to perform a second round of single-cell seeding for statistical assurance. If we consider results in plate 2, on the other hand, we would need to seed 25 96-well plates to achieve our 50 monoclonal colonies. In terms of timelines, this would take a minimum of 1 month to achieve, as 2 rounds of limiting dilution would need to be performed to provide statistical assurance of monoclonality. There is also the caveat of whether colonies would reach the minimum confluence of 40% within this time frame. Having recapped our objectives and considered the magnitude of improvement which can be achieved using the VIPS Pro and InstiGRO cell culture supplements, let's take a closer look at the products before diving into the VIPS Pro demonstration. Introducing VIPS Pro, a 2-in-1 single-cell seeding and whole-well imaging instrument. The original VIPS instrument was launched back in 2017 to address the cloning inefficiencies and regulatory requirements. The product was graciously adopted by many cell line development groups across the globe. Since then, the instrument has been further optimized to address desires for improved colony growth tracking, data management, and disposable consumables. The launch of VIPS Pro followed in 2022, marking the first GMP single-cell seeder to market. The VIPS Pro neatly sits within a Class II safety cabinet and features disposable seeding kits, saving users time and ensuring consistency between projects. The instrument is operated by Celentum Studio software, which not only enables scientists to manipulate the instrument, but also provides a powerful data management platform. The software allows triaging of clones based on user-defined parameters, the expansion of clones to be tracked, clonality reports to be quickly drawn up, and incorporates artificial intelligence to allow for precise single-cell detection and colony growth tracking. We look forward to sharing more details on each of these with you shortly. Changing gear, the InstiGRO cell culture supplements are animal component-free solutions which provide single cells with the crucial nutrients they need to develop into healthy clonal colonies. While cell culture supplements do their best, cells often need a little extra support from cell culture supplements to overcome stressful processes such as single-cell isolation. The InstiGRO supplements were launched in 2019 to provide an animal component-free alternative to fetal bovine serum, following concerns that its application could potentially lead to cross-contamination of healthcare products. While Condition Medium is a readily available resource for enhancing cloning efficiency, its application often introduces variability into the cell line development workflow due to limitations around regulating its production. By contrast, the InstiGRO cell culture supplements provide a robust, commercially formulated solution. The InstiGRO cell culture supplements promote single-cell outgrowth while preserving optical clarity, and are therefore compatible with the VIPS Pro's image-based assurance of clonality. The InstiGRO products are extremely simple to use. Simply supplement your basal culture medium with 5% InstiGRO and start seeding. With that, let's get into the VIPS Pro demonstration. Set out in front of me, I have my InstiGRO Cho Plus, my cell culture medium, my Cho cell suspension, and my VIPS Pro seeding kit. I counted my cells this morning to check that their viability was greater than 95% before diluting them to 9,500 cells per mil in their basal cell culture medium. To prepare my cloning medium, I'm going to supplement the 40 Cho medium, which these cells are cultured in, with 5% of my InstiGRO Cho Plus. Whilst I know that both InstiGRO Cho Plus and the 40 Cho medium, which I'll be working with today, are provided sterile, I want to take all the necessary precautions available to ensure optical clarity for the image-based assurance which I will be capturing later with the VIPS Pro. I'm now going to add my InstiGRO Cho Plus. So this is a 20 times concentrated stock solution, which I'm going to add to a final concentration of 5% to my cell culture medium. And then once it's added, I'm going to pull my InstiGRO and cell culture medium through a 0.2 micrometer filter. Now that my cloning medium is prepared, all I need to do is set up my VIPS Pro for single cell seeding. I'm going to start by opening up my VIPS Pro seeding kit. All materials inside have been sterilized via gamma radiation, so I can get straight into single cell seeding. There's no preliminary work which I need to complete. This is what we call the cell reservoir, and it has a seeding nozzle attached and a magnetic stir bar fitted inside, which is designed to gently agitate the cells during the seeding run and ensure that we have a homogeneous cell suspension. I'm going to detach the cell reservoir tubing from the cell reservoir cap and place my cell reservoir in the accessory tray while I fit my cell reservoir tubing. The cell reservoir tubing is really easy to fit. All I need to do is attach the line to the air line filter on the front of the VIPS Pro, and this is going to gently pressurize the system at less than 2 psi. I'm now going to thread the tubing through the lid of VIPS Pro and allow it to gently hang ready to receive the cell reservoir once I've loaded my cell suspension. For the medium fill line, I'm going to start by fitting the medium cap, which has been designed so that it fits the medium fill bottle to minimize any risk of contamination. I'm then going to take the rest of the tubing with my cloning medium and place my cloning medium bottle inside the accessory tray. With the remainder of this tubing, I'm going to thread through my peristaltic pump, which is situated on the front of the VIPS Pro, and secure. I'm then going to thread the rest of my line through the lid of the VIPS Pro and attach the seeding nozzle to the seeding head of the VIPS Pro. The next thing I want to do is prime the media fill line ready for single cell seeding. To do this, I'm going to fit a clean purge tray into the VIPS Pro plate bed and remove the lid. I'm now going to close the lid to VIPS Pro and move over to the Studio software. Using the Studio software which operates the VIPS Pro, I'm going to initiate the instrument to flush 3 milliliters of our cloning medium through the medium fill line so that it's primed ready with our cloning medium. Once the medium priming is complete, I'm going to remove the purge tray from the VIPS Pro plate lid, and I'm going to load my cell suspension into my cell reservoir ready for seeding. The cell reservoir can hold a maximum of 3 milliliters of cell suspension, so I'm going to go ahead and load this now. As mentioned previously, the cell reservoir is ready assembled, so it's really easy for me to work with. All I need to do is remove the cap, load my cell suspension, and we already have the magnetic stirrer fitted inside and the seeding nozzle attached to minimize handling. I'm going to attach my cell reservoir to the cell reservoir tubing before fitting it to the VIPS Pro seeding head. I'm then going to fit my 96 well droplet calibration plate into the VIPS Pro plate bed and also remove the lid. To begin droplet calibration, I start by performing 5 flush nozzles in well A1 of my calibration plate. Each time I select flush, 30 microliters of cell suspension will be flushed through the cell reservoir. Now that the cell reservoir and nozzle are primed for seeding, I just need to calibrate my droplets. Once both the size and position of my droplets has been calibrated, I'm ready to start single cell seeding. I'm going to remove the calibration plate from the plate bed and replace it with a newly barcoded plate. So this is my fresh plate which is barcoded going into the VIPS Pro plate bed, and this is going to be plate 1 of our seeding session today. Using the Studio software, I'm going to create a new project. So I'm going to call this VIPS Pro and Insti. I'm going to select the start date for this project, and I'm going to input my experimental details. Once my project is created, I'm already in the seeding tab of the Studio software. All I need to do is select to read the plate barcode, make sure that the correct plate type is selected, and input my cell line information. Finally, I need to input my medium fill volume, so I'm going to say 180 microliters medium fill per well. And then here you can see under well selection, I have my plate map. You'll notice that all wells minus A1 are highlighted orange, which means they are planned for single cell seeding. Well, A1 is grayed out. The reason for this is A1 is our purge well, and this allows us to have a positive control for cell growth for each plate that we seed on VIPS Pro. I do of course have the option to unselect wells by row or by column if I choose to do so, but I am going to seed the whole 96 well plate today. Throughout VIPS Pro single cell seeding, the plate map updates live. Green wells indicate wells which have been successfully single cell seeded, while red wells indicate wells which have been seeded with 2 or more cells. Finally, white wells indicate empty wells, so despite 16 attempts, VIPS Pro has not been successful in depositing a single cell into this well. I'd like to quickly take the opportunity to have a closer look at the cloning efficiency analysis, triaging, transfer tracking, and support for IND applications which the Studio software has to offer. Let's look at an internal project together. Here we have a day 14 cloning plate which has been analysed for clonal outgrowth. Wells which are highlighted green house monoclonal colonies. If we click into one, we can take a closer look at the image-based assurance of clonality captured by VIPS Pro. From day 3 onwards, VIPS Pro confluence scan has been used to monitor the percentage confluence of the colony and track the growth rate. Moving to the Analyze tab, we can triage the clones which we want to expand for screening. I want to include wells which were single cell seeded by VIPS Pro and later verified as clonal using the whole well images captured. I also want to select clones which are greater than 40% confluent on day 14. Once I have my list, I can use the Transfer tab to track the expansion of clones into a 12-well plate. In terms of regulatory support, let's take a quick look at the ability to generate clonality reports within the Studio software. I'm going to select the Reports tab and select to run a clonality report. Within seconds, I have a PDF file with thumbnails from all of the whole well imaging time points ready for IND submission. Finally, the Continuous Audit Report lists all of the activities which have been completed within a project and links it to the assigned user or supervisor who completed them. Having run through the VIPS Pro demonstration, I'd like to spend a little bit more time looking at the InstiGRO cell culture supplements and talking about how they can help nurture single cells into healthy clonal colonies. The InstiGRO cell culture supplements were developed to provide a reliable, animal component-free solution for poor cloning efficiency. For CHO cell lines, 2 different formulations of InstiGRO are available, InstiGRO CHO and InstiGRO CHO Plus. While both are designed to enhance cloning efficiencies, their compositions differ slightly to allow support for various CHO cell lines and basal culture mediums used to develop novel protein therapeutics. Whilst conditioned medium can be used to improve poor cloning efficiency, the number of clones achieved often fluctuates between projects due to lack of control over its production. For those of you who may not be familiar with conditioned medium, it is obtained by harvesting medium from a bulk culture of cells. It contains the soluble proteins, such as growth factors and cytokines, which serve to support the survival and growth of cells. Despite being easily accessible, conditioned medium is often considered far from ideal, as its ability to enhance cloning efficiencies is reliant on the health of the cell culture which it is harvested from. Let's take a closer look at some data which compares the performance of InstiGRO CHO versus conditioned medium. In this experiment, a side-by-side comparison was set up using the VIPS instrument. 5 96-well plates were single-cell seeded using cloning medium which had been supplemented with InstiGRO CHO, alongside 5 96-well plates which were seeded using cloning medium supplemented with 30% conditioned medium. On day 14, the average percentage clonal outgrowth across the 5 plates was calculated for each of the 2 conditions, and a t-test was performed to determine whether the results were deemed statistically significant. As you can see, the data nicely demonstrates the ability of InstiGRO CHO to consistently support cells and generate a high population of clonal colonies. The average percentage cloning efficiency increased from 8.2% to 50.9% when InstiGRO Cho was used in place of conditioned medium. Before I hand back to Marta for more details on the VIPS Pro, I would like to quickly draw attention to the new formulation of InstiGRO Cho Plus, which has recently launched. As mentioned previously, InstiGRO Cho Plus was launched alongside InstiGRO Cho in 2019 to nurture single cells into healthy clonal colonies. Since the initial launch of the product, the supplement's formulation has been further optimized to enhance cloning efficiencies and average colony size. We are very excited to announce that the newly improved formulation is available for purchasing as of the beginning of April this year. Let's take a quick look at an evaluation case study which was completed by UGA Biopharma. Two CHO cell lines, both of which were expressing monoclonal antibodies, were single-cell seeded using both the new and original formulation of InstiGRO Cho Plus. The InstiGRO Cho Plus formulations were used in combination with UGA Biopharma's first-choice media, in addition to an alternate commercially available medium which we have anonymized and will refer to as Media A. Following seeding, plates were incubated for 14 days at 37 degrees Celsius and 8% CO2. The average percentage confluence of clones on days 4, 7, 11, and 14 was noted, and the average percentage clonal outgrowth analysis was calculated on day 14. Any clones which had confluence less than 5% on day 14 were excluded from this calculation. An effects test was estimated using Cohen's d. Values greater than or equal to 0.8 were deemed to have a large effect. As you can see from the results, the new InstiGRO Cho Plus had a large effect on the cloning efficiency across both pools seeded with UGA's first choice media. The average percentage cloning efficiency increased from 14.8% to 25.5% for Pool 1, while Pool 2 saw an increase from 14.3% to 31%. In terms of the percentage confluence of monoclonal colonies on day 14, the average percentage confluence of Pool 1 clones increased from 18.3% to 30.9%, when the new InstiGRO Cho Plus was used in combination with first choice media. Finally, the average percentage confluence of Pool 2's clones increased from 24.5% to 49%. In terms of benefits, the new InstiGRO Cho Plus formulation enables scientists to further reduce the number of plates seeded per project and allows clonal expansion to commence at an earlier time point. Put together, project costs and timelines can be significantly reduced, allowing groups to meet the rising demand for new protein therapeutics. With that, I will hand back over to Marta for further details on the VIPS Pro.
Emma, thank you very much for this fantastic demonstration of VIPS Pro and the insights into InstiGRO Cho reagents. I wanted to circle back to the overview of VIPS Pro and talk a little bit more about the way we utilize artificial intelligence for cell detection. And I also wanted to share some very exciting data sets. As Emma has previously discussed, VIPS Pro operates by depositing a droplet with a single cell at a bottom of a dry well. That droplet is immediately imaged by our optics system, which collects 20 Z-stack images. Those images are immediately analyzed by AI-driven algorithm for detection of a single cell, and the algorithm will determine the clonality status for each individual well. Once the clonality status has been determined, the well is automatically filled with media using the user-defined volume. Now we know that the AI algorithm is extremely precise and has the ability to distinguish between single cells, clusters, air bubbles, or any cellular debris. To give you a quick overview, if a single cell is detected in a droplet, that well will be labeled as single-seeded, and it will be highlighted in green on the plate map as shown here. If there is more than one cell detected, whether it's a couple of individual cells or a cell cluster, that well will be highlighted as overseeded as shown on the plate map. We know that the AI-driven algorithm is extremely precise and offers a consistency across multiple plates. In fact, we compared the VIPS Pro clonality prediction with the human eye. We analyzed hundreds of droplet images and cross-referenced the manual analysis with the AI algorithm. And what you can see here in this graph is the area of agreement between the ground truth, which is the human eye, and the network. And the green squares represents those areas of agreement. So if you look overall at the data sets that we've generated for CHO-S cells in 96 well plates, you can see that we get over 98% accuracy of cell detection. What it actually means is that the algorithm is very accurate, very precise, so you can be very confident with the clonality status that VIPS Pro gives you during the seeding. Now, in addition to automating the seeding process and also automating the cell detection, so you don't have to do it manually, we also very focused on gentle seeding for the highest efficiency and any steps that we can take to save time. And this data set compares the results generated on VIPS Pro in 96 well plates compared to limiting dilution. And also we performed the same experiment in 3 well plates. What you can see here is that there is a massive improvement in terms of seeding efficiency compared to limiting dilution when you use VIPS Pro. But more importantly, in addition to that very high efficiency, you're saving a lot of time and manual labor because you no longer have to set up the plates, pre-fill them with media, and seed multiple plates just to get enough clones to take you through to the next stage. But how many plates could you actually seed from a single fill of cell reservoir? And as Emma mentioned during the demonstration, the cell reservoir can accumulate 3 milliliters of cell suspension. What we wanted to determine was the number of plates you can consecutively seed with VIPS Pro and also investigate both seeding efficiency and clonal outgrowth for each subsequent plate. When we looked at the seeding efficiency of CHO-S cells, we've noticed that across 10 plates seeded consecutively, the average seeding efficiency was just under 80%. If you looked at individual plates, you can see that the seeding efficiency, as shown here in this table and also in this graph, the seeding efficiency was very consistent and for all of the plates was above 80%. So it didn't matter whether it was the plate number 2 or plate number 8 or 9, you are still able to get very high seeding efficiency with VIPS Pro, which is fantastic. There was no clogging of the cell reservoir as the cell suspension continues to be agitated throughout the seeding process. However, as we all know, seeding efficiency is just half of the story. You also need to look at the clonal outgrowth because cells might not survive the process of single cell seeding. So that was the next step in our investigation. On day 14, following the single cell seeding, we also measured the confluence for each individual plate using VIPS Pro. VIPS Pro is all-in-one solution, so in addition to single cell seeding, it also performs a whole imaging and confluence analysis. So the overall clonal outgrowth across 10 plates is represented here in this graph. If you look at the individual plates as well, you can see a nice consistent result. In this case, we also used InstiGRO CHO Plus reagent to optimize cell health and survival post-seeding. So what it means is that, again, regardless of the plate order, you do get a very consistent clonal outgrowth, meaning that the cell health is not being compromised, and you can indeed seed multiple plates with CHO-S cells on VIPS Pro and still get a very consistent result. And finally, we also wanted to investigate the cell health within the cell reservoir itself. The seeding process, especially when seeding templates at the time, might take a while. So in this study, we incubated cell suspension in the cell reservoir for up to 180 minutes. We then collected cell suspension every 10 minutes and measured viable cell count and cell viability percentage. This assessment was actually performed using ICON, which is another solution from our Solentum range. ICON performs titer viability assessment, also utilizes artificial intelligence and imaging for viability assessment as shown here. And in this case, we use trypan exclusion assay as shown here. If you look at the results, you can notice that the cell viability was not affected and very consistent over time, meaning that the cells were very happy inside of the cell reservoir as we continue to seed multiple plates. To conclude today's session, we have examined how Advanced Instruments combines automation in the form of VIPS Pro with cell culture supplements to maximize cloning efficiency and reduce development timelines for protein therapeutics. Following transfection and selection of the CHO cell lines, scientists are required to generate a panel of monoclonal colonies for screening. Unfortunately, the logistics of isolating single cells with a microplate can be very tricky following the traditional limiting dilution approach. By implementing VIPS Pro, we not only automate the steps and achieve optimal single-cell seeding efficiencies, but we also provide AI-based cell detection in well immediately after seeding. Furthermore, we also offer whole well imaging for image-based assurance of clonality, and this removes the need for a second round of single-cell cloning. Finally, the InstiGRO reagents offer animal component-free solutions which provide single cells with all the crucial nutrients they need to develop into healthy clonal colonies. While cell culture mediums do their best, cells often need a little extra support from cell culture supplements to overcome stressful processes such as single cell isolation. Thank you so much for listening. We will now move on to the Q&A session, during which we will address the questions that came in during the talk. So we have received actually quite a few questions. So we'll try to perhaps address 5 each. And if there are questions that we haven't answered, we will try to follow up via email. Emma, so the first question on InstiGRO reagents, do you provide Insti cell culture supplements for any other cell lines?
Thanks, Marta. So yes, we do. In addition to CHO cell lines, we provide Insti cell culture supplements for HEC293 cells. So that's the full range. We do Insti Thor HEC, InstiGRO HEC, and also InstiShake HEC. Okay, we've got a question for you, Marta. Is VIPS Pro compatible with other cell types?
Thanks, Emma. That is a good question. Of course, the data that you saw today was CHO only, but VIPS Pro is compatible with other cell types such as HEC, such as iPSCs, MSCs, insect cells such as SF9s, and the list goes on. And that includes both seeding and also whole well imaging. We do have a very accurate confluence measurement and recently released a new scan that assesses very precisely confluence of MSC cells, which have quite unusual morphology. So yes, VIPS Pro is compatible with loads of different cell lines. Right, let's throw it back to you, Emma. Another question. What quantity sizes are the Insti cell culture supplements offered in?
So for the InstiGRO cell culture supplements, we offer both 5 milliliter and 25 milliliter bottles. For InstiShake, that product just comes in 25 ml formats, and then our InstiThaw supplements are provided in 5 milliliter bottles. Okay, another question for you, Marta. What plate formats can VIPS Pro seed? Does it work with 384 well plates too?
Yeah, another good question. So yes, it does work with 384 well plates and 96 well plates. We do specify which plate types are validated on VIPS, but majority of our customers do use 96 well plates, but it also works with 384. Alrighty, the question for you, Emma. What documentation is provided for Insti cell culture supplements?
So we provide certificates of analysis for each batch of Insti cell culture supplement which we manufacture, and then we have a TSE BSE statement as well, and then of course we have data sheets which showcase both internal and customer data sets, so that customers can gauge kind of the improvement that they should see with their cells. Okay, next question for you, Marta. Do I need to wash or clean the cell reservoir after each use?
That's a really good question. So no, there is no need to wash or clean the single-use cell reservoir for VIPS Pro. With VIPS Pro, that was the whole purpose of introducing single-use consumables. It was the convenience, no need to wash. Whereas the original VIPS that was released a while ago did have a reusable consumable, but we moved away from that for the convenience and to prevent any cross-contamination between projects. Right, so back to you, Emma. Another question on Insti reagents. Do you always filter InstiGRO supplements?
So if we're doing single cell seeding with InstiGRO, we would always filter. So we would add it to the basal cell culture medium, which we're pairing it with, and then we would pass both through a 0.2 micrometer filter, because we want to capture whole well images for clonality assurance, and we want to ensure that there's absolutely no possibility of any debris, whether that be from the basal cell culture medium or any other supplement. So yes, if you're using it InstiGRO in general cell culture, however, say you're working with a particularly tricky cell line, in that case where optical clarity is not important, I wouldn't bother filtering the supplement. Okay, another question for you, Marta. In terms of imaging on VIPS Pro, how often should I image the plate after seeding?
All right, so I guess that's the a question about how well imaging. How often should I image the plate after seeding? So that's really depends on the user. Of course, it's crucial to collect day 0 image, which is the day when you seed. So you need the whole well image with visible well edges to support your IND submission. So this is your proof of clonality. And with VIPS Pro, in fact, you get this double log of clonality, which is both the image of the droplet immediately after dispensing, and then you get the whole well image of a single cell on day 0. So day 0 is an absolute must. And then some people do it every single day, and then they just pick and choose which images they want to use with their submission. Obviously, it's better to have multiple data points, but quite often you don't see a massive growth in the first few days. The colonies tends to pick up a little bit later, but in general, it's good to monitor it. So you pick several time points that work for you. And with VIPS Pro, you have the ability to not only image whole wells, but also use this AI-based algorithm to measure confluence, which then gives you information about the colony health, how fast it's growing, and you can use that for triaging, as Emma has demonstrated earlier. But hopefully that answers this question. Emma, I think that will be probably final question for you. And it's a question that asks about the differences between InstiGRO Cho and InstiGRO Cho Plus. Which is better? What is the difference between those two?
Yeah, so InstiGRO Cho and InstiGRO Cho Plus are both for single cell seeding of Cho cell lines. You would use either one or the other. So InstiGRO Cho Plus is a slightly richer formulation, and it's for your more challenging Cho cell lines, or if you're pairing it with a slightly less rich basal cell culture medium. But to assess all options, what we recommend new customers do is they perform a single cell seeding experiment with both InstiGRO Cho for a couple of plates, and then also InstiGRO Cho Plus for a couple of plates, and assess the cloning efficiency. And then we would recommend that they go with, whichever gives the most clones per plate. Okay, and final question for you, Marta. Can I continue to image my clones after transferring the colony into a new plate?
All right, so I guess that question is, once your colony has fully grown in 96 or 384, you want to transfer into larger well. Can you continue to track it? Yes, 100%. So there is this option called transfer in Studio software, and I believe Emma has demonstrated that also earlier. Which essentially allows you to not only track it, but also you can continue performing whole imaging. We've recently introduced large plate formats on VIPS Pro, so that is 12 and 48 watt plates, and it comes with a very precise confluence algorithm, so you can not only continue to image cells that have been, or colonies that have been transferred into different plates, but you can also continue measure confluence and gather more data. Right, I think we will, in the interest of time, we will probably conclude the Q&A, but thank you so much for asking all those questions. And I really hope you found today's session informative and valuable. As we conclude, please feel free to reach out to myself or Emma. Here are our email addresses. Alternatively, feel free to browse our website, www.aicompanies.com. And thank you so much for listening. Until the next time, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.